Somewhere in a drawer at MIT sits a single glass tube, no bigger than a finger, and it is the only piece left of a machine that once learned to think. In 1951 that machine solved a maze before most computers on Earth could even add two numbers reliably. Then it simply disappeared, and the man who built it could never find it again. The year was 1951. The place a wood-paneled laboratory at Harvard University. Marvin Minsky was 23, a mathematics graduate student who had just left Harvard for Princeton, restless with a strange question about the brain. Alongside him worked Dean Edmonds, a fellow student with a gift for wiring and machines. Together they set out to build something no one had ever built before, not a calculator, but a machine that could learn. 2 years earlier, the psychologist Donald Hebb had proposed a simple rule for how brains learn. When two nerve cells fire together, Hebb argued, the connection between them grows stronger. It was only a theory, scratched out in a book, with no machine anywhere on Earth built to test it. Minsky wanted to build that theory out of wires, tubes, and motors. Minsky and Edmonds had no real lab budget, so they scavenged what they could find. From wartime surplus stores, they pulled motors and clutches originally built for the autopilots of B-24 Liberator bombers. 40 of these units, each one wired to act like a single synapse, soon filled the room. It was the summer of 1951 and two students were trying to wire together a piece of a mind. A project this strange needed a sponsor willing to take a risk. That sponsor arrived through the psychologist George Miller, who helped secure funding from the United States Office of Naval Research. The Navy had little interest in rats or mazes. What it wanted to know was whether a machine could ever adapt on its own. With that grant, an idea scratched on paper became a machine of tubes and steel. By the time it was finished, the machine stood as large as a grand piano, humming with heat. 3,000 vacuum tubes powered 40 separate units, each one standing in for a single Hebbian synapse. They called it SNARC, the Stochastic Neural Analog Reinforcement Calculator. By most accounts, it was the first machine ever built to simulate a network of learning neurons. SNARC was not programmed with instructions the way a modern computer is. Its 40 synapses were wired almost at random, each one able to strengthen or weaken its own connection. When a choice led somewhere good, a reward signal flowed back through the network, and that pathway grew a little stronger. It was trial, error, and reward, the same rough logic Hebb had described inside a living brain. To test it, Minsky and Edmonds built a maze, but not one made of wood or wire. The rat itself existed only inside the machine, a simulated creature represented by a panel of small lights. Visitors would watch those lights flicker left, then right, then left again, as the network tried one path after another. Slowly, run after run, the lights began choosing the same correct path every time. The machine was learning. With SNARC now proving it could learn, Minsky returned to Princeton and wrote the work up as his doctoral thesis, sometimes cited as Neural Nets and the Brain Model Problem. Some on the mathematics faculty were uneasy, unsure whether a machine built from tubes and motors even counted as mathematics. But the mathematician John von Neumann sat on his committee, and he approved the thesis without hesitation. If it was not mathematics yet, von Neumann is said to have remarked, it would be someday. SNARC did not stay locked away in one laboratory. In the years that followed, it was loaned out for students to study, eventually making its way to Dartmouth College, where Minsky himself would later help launch the field of artificial intelligence in 1956. Machines like this were rare, and universities passed them between labs the way scientists share notes. But somewhere along that chain of borrowed hands, SNARC simply stopped being tracked. No one filed a report, and no one wrote down the day it went missing. Decades later, when historians and Minsky's own colleagues went looking for the machine, there was nothing left to find. The machine that had taught a simulated rat to learn was simply gone, lost somewhere between one university and the next. All that remained was a single module, one tube, one synapse, quietly kept and later known as Minsky's last neuron. That lone surviving piece is still kept today, a small relic of the machine that first learned from its own mistakes. Every reinforcement learning system running in a phone or a research lab today traces its lineage back to those 40 humming synapses in a Harvard room. Marvin Minsky went on to help found the field of artificial intelligence itself, but he never stopped wondering what became of his first machine. If this story caught your imagination, give it a like, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe to Unearthed Facts for more true stories like this one.